Welcome into another episode of the Penguin Nation Fans Podcast. I am your host, Gino Leone. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Whitetown Nation. And don't forget to check out my written work over on Red Shirt Sports. Today, I am bringing to you guys another preview episode. This time, Youngstown State takes on the number 2 South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Just a quick little history lesson. Since 2001 in the regular season, Youngstown State holds a 3-18 record versus top 3 opponents. They have struggled mightily. The last time they beat a team specifically ranked at number 2 was North Dakota State in 2008. So we're going to need a big crowd to show up, support, and be loud for the Penguins. So now let's dive more into this matchup series, matchup history. In the all-time series between Youngstown State and South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits hold a 17-4 advantage. A key thing that I wrote down here, South Dakota State has an away record of 9-2. So despite the Ice Castle being a tough environment and a long trip, South Dakota State has been able to come into the Ice Castle and win. So some interesting stats, some interesting historical trends to just keep in mind as we dive into this team. Now, let's break down the X's and O's here. So, South Dakota State on offense, they have 3 key playmakers that I want to highlight. Chase Mason, Julius Loffridge, and Lofton Ogroski. Chase Mason, dual threat quarterback for the Jackrabbits. He's been phenomenal. His release time, his poise in the pocket has been outstanding. And you can't forget his legs. He is a remarkable athlete. I talked about this when I preseason ranked these Valley quarterbacks. Mason can both run and throw. I think the coaching staff has probably, put some reins on him this season. They don't want him to get hurt because their depth situation at QB isn't great. But he has proven he has all the intangibles, the physical traits, and I could see him being a potential NFL pick in the future. Man, he has so much potential, and he started off hot. So he's an athlete. We're going to have to contain him for YSU. It's a big game to stop him on defense. Running back, Julius Loffridge, next player that I already mentioned here. Loffridge is a transfer running back. He has had a phenomenal season so far. He's a balanced back. He's explosive. He can, shed tackles and run down the field. So he's off to a good start. YSU's run defense has been formidable so far in the season. We're going to have to shut him down. And then my biggest concern this game is our matchup with South Dakota State's wide receivers in our secondary. I don't think it's a great matchup for us. DJ Harris is questionable. He's been trying to get back into action. Haven't seen him play since that Mercyhurst game. This is a game where I think we 100% need him. Lofton Ogroski, he's their number 1 guy. Chase Mason goes to him all the time. I saw this in the Montana State. He would just throw it up, and Ogroski, he's a really good athlete. He's one of the better receivers, I think, now across the entire FCS, and he's really proven his worth. So we're going to have to limit him from a Youngstown State standpoint, shut him down. Moving to defense, South Dakota State is very good defensively. They have a disruptive front 7. They have 24 tackles for loss on the season already. They've been able to get penetration. What really impressed me on film, especially in the Mercyhurst game and the Montana State game, they swarm to the ball so fast, and their interior defensive line is able to get penetration so fast that the quarterback doesn't have time to process anything, and he's either on his back, he's gonna get sacked, or he's making an errant throw because South Dakota State was able to get pressure. So for YSU, you have a big physical offensive line. You're gonna have to match the physicality of South Dakota State. They have 3 D linemen that are 6'4", and they can obviously rotate some guys in. They're South Dakota State now. I don't think they're as deep as they may have been a couple of years ago because of what happened in January, where they lost all those players to the portal. Head coach Jimmy Rogers went to Washington State, but they're still relentless. Kobe Claiborne, phenomenal. He's 6 foot. He's undersized, but he is quick. He's twitchy. A guy you got to watch on the D line. And then their linebackers. Their linebackers eat, man. When that D line gets penetration, those linebackers fly. Very athletic, very versatile. So they do all the things right. I think what's been most impressive for me in terms of what I expected preseason, I think their secondary has exceeded expectations and has seriously improved their ceiling. I still think they have to prove themselves a bit. I thought Montana State would be a good litmus test for the South Dakota State secondary, but I don't think Montana State's down the field passing attack has been good. So maybe for YSU, with the bye week extra preparation, we can try to hit something deep and maybe expose some weaknesses back there. But other than that, South Dakota State has had a phenomenal defense. I think this is one of the better defenses in the entire country. And you could argue this is the best front seven. In terms of weaknesses, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It was hard to find one for this entire unit. If I had to be hypercritical here, because this is a championship caliber team, this team really has 3 goals: reclaim the Dakota marker, win the Missouri Valley, and win the national championship. That's their 3 goals. So I'm going to be a bit critical here. There's a couple times, Montana State especially, even Drake was able to put up 21 points against them. And the quarterback that can run, they've struggled sometimes to contain that, and maybe they just miss a couple tackles. I saw this even Montana State against the Bobcats QB. The quarterback would get loose, and just a slip in discipline would result in a big running play. And I think for Bo Brungard, if they do that against Bo can run and obviously expose that. He has quick speed. So that is what I have seen on film from the Jackrabbits in terms of offense and defense. Now, what are the keys to the game? Because this is a big one. We're going to need Penguin Nation to show up. That's the first thing I want to mention. We need a loud crowd. This is a huge game, a massive game for the program. Doug Phillips talked about this in his press conference this week. Our record against South Dakota State and North Dakota State has been 13%. I believe he said over the past 18 or something years. And that's what they've been talking about since January. That's what the coaching staff has written down on the schedule. So this game means a lot. It really does. And I know we're going to be heavy underdogs. I don't know what the line's going to be. If I had to make a guess, I'd say it's going to be around minus 15.5, something like that, around that ballpark. But we're not going to be favored. We're going to be underdogs. We need a crowd to make this a tough environment, because when you have these big teams come in, you want to show that you're committed and that your fans are going to make this a hard and brutal environment. So calling out Penguin Nation right now, let's go be there at the Ice Castle at 6 p.m. on Saturday. So keys to the game, dive more into those, get pressure on Chase Mason. A lot of the game against Mercyhurst, Chase Mason had time to throw the ball. And when he has time to throw the ball, he's going to pick you apart. His receivers are good enough that they're going to get open. And I think this is especially important because our secondary has not done a great job yet this season. Now, it's still a small sample size. We're still early in the season. So maybe our secondary players rise up in this game. But I think getting pressure on Chase Mason will do a lot. You have to hit this kid and drop him on the ground. And then for a secondary, this is another key. My second key for the game: shut down Lofton Ogroski. I sound like a basketball coach here, right? Take away their best receiving threat. They have other guys, Graham Goring, Adam Bullock, I believe Adam Bullock at wide receiver. Alex Bullock, I apologize, sorry. Alex Bullock, but make those guys beat you. Lofton Ogroski can't be the guy to do it. Make these other guys rise up. Make maybe some younger guys rise up and prove that they can beat you. So I think that's going to be pivotal for our secondary. Another key to the game, flipping it over to the offense, win the turnover battle. Can't put our defense in bad positions in this game. I think our defensive line, our overall front seven is equipped to stop the run. South Dakota State has not been great at running the ball this season. They have not been great at getting push up front and getting to the second level. Again, that's being a bit critical, but I've heard some South Dakota State fans talk about it. They have not been too impressed with the penetration they're getting on run plays. So for YSU, shut that down, continue that trend. Another thing I want to talk about, red zone and third down defense. In 27 red zone appearances for South Dakota State, they've scored on just 22 attempts. So that's field goals and touchdowns combined. In terms of touchdowns, how many times when they're in the red zone, they've scored just 15 touchdowns out of those 27 appearances. So YSU needs to emphasize that bend but don't break mentality. They can drive, they can get in the red zone, but you got to continue that bad trend that the Jacks have been. This is how they started the season, right? The red zone offense has been poor. Continue that trend. Make sure they don't get in. You can surrender field goals. We can't allow red zone touchdowns. That's another key to the game. Trench dominance. it's going to be the key every time you play a Dakota school, especially North Dakota State, South Dakota State. They've been so consistent and disciplined in their play in the trenches, and that is what separates them. That is why they're so consistent and they can win national titles almost every year. That's why it's been so hard for other teams and other programs to emerge. They don't have the resources. Then on top of that, North Dakota State and South Dakota State are developing these players in the trenches at an insanely high clip. They have just flows of guys that can rotate into the lineup, just loads of talent there on the D line and O line. So for YSU, this is a lengthy team. They're big, they're physical. We're going to have to rise up. We're going to have to challenge them. I think our offensive line has traditionally underperformed in these type of matchups. They have not done a great job of fighting and getting that push. And I know it's so difficult because these guys are not only lengthy, they're twitchy, they're fast, explosive. They have everything. They do everything right. But our offensive line, I think, needs to show up and be physical. And then our defensive line, I'm worried a bit about our length. I think, South Dakota State has some mammoths on their offensive line, obviously, but I'm not as worried about that interior of our D line with Thomas Jolly and Colin Vaughn. Those are two 300+ pound D linemen. You can be small, not necessarily lengthy, and still be a good defensive lineman, a good interior tackle. And I thought we held up nicely against Michigan State, so I'm not too worried there. I am a bit worried about how we might fare on the edge in terms of getting penetration, especially if Ebony Curry Jr. isn't able to give it a go. I hope he's healthy. Would love to know his status heading into Saturday because we're going to need him. He's been our best pass rusher this year. But trench dominance, win in the trenches, and you're going to have a good chance to win this game. You're going to pull an upset against the number 2 team in the country. Last key to the game, I have take shots down the field. Like I mentioned earlier, this South Dakota State team, secondary specifically, I don't feel like they've been tested that much. And they're going to be good, right? They're going to be good. They're going to try to keep everything in front of us. I know they're aware that we have explosiveness at receiver outside of Max Tomczak, and if they don't, I would be shocked because that's a huge oversight. But they're going to try to keep everything in front of them, and we're going to have to take what they give us sometimes. But I would like to see us try to catch them off guard with some trickery, maybe do some stuff with like Pete Shinnick did against us, fake receivers throwing touchdowns, fake punts, but try to catch them off guard early with an explosive play, maybe a shot down the seam, a timing route, something that confuses this defense. And what encourages me is that Mike Yursich, I think he's a brilliant offensive mind. He's had an extra week to prepare for this game and tried to figure out how the heck do we attack this defense? Because it's one of the better defenses outside of North Dakota State. You could argue you're not going to face a better defense. So Mike Yursich has had time to prepare for this defense. Now can we carry that out and execute? So that's all I have for the episode today. Again, we need a huge crowd to show up, support this team. And for the players, I just want to say this right now. I would try to focus on the game, not worry about the environment, what's going on around us. I can guarantee if we beat this team, people are going to show up, man. They're going to come support this team. So if you're a player, focus on the game, man. Come on, go get this game for us. And I hope for our players that our fans come out and support. There's not a better game on. Ohio State plays Minnesota at like 7:30. You can catch the game after. Go watch this team. Go support the Guins. They need the environment. So excited for this week. I can't wait to see what transpires this Saturday. I can't wait to get into the film after, man, and see how we stack up against a national title contender. And who knows, man, maybe we can shock the world. It's going to be tough, but college football's crazy. There's some crazy things happen, upsets happen that maybe people don't expect. We'll see what the Guins can do and what we have in the tank this Saturday. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Penguin Nation Fans Podcast. Make sure to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. Also, if you're listening on a podcast platform, I would appreciate a 5-star review. For now, I'm Gino Leone, and as always, go Guins.